Today, on Rhyland's Rant, we're going to talk a little bit about supplementation and when's the right time. Okay, so Dave had a question. How many is too many protein shakes? Well, you can have too much anything. And when it comes down to it, realistically, the fewest amount of protein shakes you have, the better. Simply because we're talking about synthetic products. That's what a supplementation is. It's supplemented because it's not in your diet. Now, if you just simply have real protein from meat source or any other organic source, then you're looking at the most natural course of action for your body to absorb it. That would make sense, but you're not necessarily going to bring an egg salad sandwich into your gym bag, are you? So this is where supplementation comes in handy. That's the whole idea. And there's a lot of studies that have shown like recoverability comes from within that 45-minute window. Is it the end of the world if you don't get it within that 40 minutes? Absolutely not. Here's an important idea when it comes to supplementation in general public, and this is a very important idea and you treat yourself wherever you want to fit it, depending on your lifestyle. There are studies that go with athletic development that everything comes down to that very final straw, that very last second, whether it's on a bike sprint, sometimes they're sprinting in the water, sometimes they're just talking about recoverability from doing high intensity weight training. And all of this stuff does show promise. They show these studies, they control them. Now, do you actually know? Are you going to make a difference in that 1 second of your bike? Are you actually going to make a difference on whether or not you're kind of sore versus really sore? Like, this is why I want you to really think about it, because there's a huge slippery slope that once you walk into that supplement store, the guy's going to tell you, hey, this does this, hey, this does that, hey, this does this. But you know what the number one thing that does 95% of everything? Working out and eating right. Every other margin that you're going after is a 5% possible summation increase. For example, creatine. Creatine is probably it is actually the most studied resource of supplementation. It happens naturally in meats, and what you want is it's a part of your power system, your phosphocreatine. So my ability to jump, my ability to sprint. So if that's what I'm doing a lot of, I supplement that, and my performance would actually be extended and recover better. So that's great. If you're a power lifter, that's great. If you work in an office and you do squats sometimes, I don't really see that being a marginal difference in your life, okay? Now, when we go back to whey protein for a second here, because I still supplement it myself, and someone tells me they don't, I say, great, good on you, because you discovered a new way to get protein, get the sufficient amount of protein that you need in a day. For me, it's quick, it tastes good, I shake it up, and I drink it right after. It's almost like a reward after my workout. And some people don't. Some people can just eat right after. If you have a meal right after, you're gonna recover, right? And I mean, that's really what we're coming down to. And sometimes you're gonna have, like, how many in a day? Well, if you wanna have one maybe later at night because you don't want a full meal, that's actually sometimes what I do. If oh man, I'm kinda hungry before bed, and you almost got this, like you got this fix, like you wanna grab something, throw down a protein shake. And to me, now this is my opinion, I can't necessarily prove it, there could be studies out there that could tell you otherwise, but to me it makes sense. Have protein right before bed when your body is going into a phase of recovery. So your body's beaten up from the day, no matter what stresses in your day, it has somewhat stresses, and you have a protein shake, then your body is like, okay, well, we can use this, we're not needing fats or carbs, but protein, we're gonna build off it, so that makes sense. Now, if you were to have just more of a natural source of protein, again, this is the more natural course of action. But that doesn't mean it's wrong to have a supplemented form. Sometimes supplemented forms fit our life, okay? A lot of things are unnatural in our way of life now, so we find ways to, cut a corner here and there. And sometimes you need to supplement things. Sometimes you do not get enough vitamins and minerals. Quite commonly, I'd say 99% of people do not get enough, okay? And that's like on a global scale, but at the end of the day, are you getting all your spinach in a day? Probably not. Are you getting all your magnesium? And this is actually magnesium I'm gonna make a point of, because I've heard top-end strength conditioning coach talk about supplementing magnesium. And that's the number one thing that they say people will not probably supplement or not get it naturally in their diet because it's so difficult to get. Some things aren't available to us. So supplementation does make a difference. Now, again, watch that slippery slope. And is it gonna make a difference for you personally tomorrow? Or is it really just not really worth it, $70 that you tagged on to everything else that the guy talked you into? You know, is a protein bar better than a meal? No. But is it gonna help you in that day if you're quick, you need something quick to grab? Probably. And again, go for a more natural choice. So when you approach a supplement store, the number one thing I recommend is do your research. Do as much research as you can. And that comes not just from a blog here and there, because sometimes they're actually good references because they're just people actually experiencing it, saying, hey, this didn't work, this did work, this didn't work. But take it all in and take in the bad reviews the most, because those are truthful. No one's gonna make a point of making a bad review. And then take upon yourself to even look into some of the science behind it, if you know how to. It's a bit more difficult to look at research methods and stuff like that, or simply just talk to an expert. Like literally talk to someone who is a dietitian, or talk to a doctor about something, see if he feels comfortable with it. But the one thing you gotta be careful about when you walk in a supplement store, and it's not that they're gonna lie to you, but they're gonna package something to you that you don't need, because that's their job. That's literally their job, right? They get them in there, it's like, well, hey, you wanna recover this glutamine, it's gonna make a big difference. Or you wanna recover, right? You wanna get big, you have BCAAs, it's good for recoverability. And both those things work for some people. But at the same time, is it worth that investment in everything else? Trust me, I have made that trick I've gone right into that trick. And I know several other people. You go in to want to buy one tub of protein and you will walk out with $500 worth of shit you can't name. Probably have to edit that. But the main thing is, know what you're doing as much as you can and really humble yourself on how much do you really need it, okay? Because think of that first scale I told you, 95%. And that's just a ballpark number, but I think it's pretty realistic, comes from just healthy eating and regular exercise. Doesn't cost you that much money, does it? You don't need to go to that supplement store, okay? So where protein powder fits your workout, right after a workout, end of the day, maybe you're just hungry and that's the only thing you have on you, go right ahead. But don't fall into that slippery slope. And one more thing, on the scoops, this is again the trick. They'll tell you, oh yeah, 2 scoops, 50, and then someone will put them 4. It's like, I want to get really big. You can have too much of anything. And I will tell you from what I remember seeing in research that the human body cannot synthesize any more than 30 grams per serving. Now, you can buffer that a little bit because not all of it will be used, but if you're going more than 35, 40, a lot of that's not being used for protein. So again, watch these little tricks and do your research. Best of luck. All right, guys, that's the video. Thanks for watching. Please do subscribe, leave a comment, leave a like, leave a question. I like to rant, so let's keep this flowing. Eat healthy, but have fun.